Hello and welcome to an episode of Historically Marked. I am Jason in Ohio, and yes, this is my first Historic National Road episode in Ohio. And so I'm going to do a little something different this time around when I'm in Ohio. That is that, unlike a lot of my Historic National Road episodes in Illinois and Indiana, I'm going to focus not just on one place, but I'm going to do episodes based on several different towns that I'll be passing through. I'm not saying that any of those towns are not worthy of their own episode, but I thought I'd kind of speed things up a little bit because I will be passing through a lot of communities, ghost towns, and cities on the National Road. But yes, there will be some towns that have their own episode, but I am just out in the middle of nowhere pretty much. But there is a roadside pullout, and I will read you off the first Historic National Road marker that I see. Here we go. So Richmond, Indiana is about 9 miles, and that was the last episode I did from the Historic National Road. And so I see this, and I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It says here, "Welcome to the National Road. The National Road crosses 6 states from Baltimore, Maryland to East St. Louis, Illinois. The road fulfilled the dreams of George Washington and Thomas Jefferson to build an all-weather route across the Allegheny Mountains to connect the eastern seaboard with the Midwest. The road was conceived by Albert Gallatin, Secretary of the Treasury under Thomas Jefferson, and was authorized by Congress in 1806. The road was the nation's first federally funded interstate highway and opened the West for the movement of people and goods. Construction began in 1811 in Cumberland, Maryland, extending an earlier route from Baltimore. By 1818, the road reached the Ohio River. By 1833, it was completed to Columbus, Ohio. In 1850, it extended west to Vandalia, Illinois. The National Road is an engineering marvel. Graceful stone arch bridges cross streams and rivers. Inns and taverns were built to meet the need of travelers. Many of the bridges and buildings that characterized the early days of the road can still be found in towns along the road today. And some of these markers can be found in a lot of those national road states. I was not able to find any in Illinois or Indiana, but there are some more towards the east. And here is basically where I'm at, right here. This is the road that takes you all the way to West Virginia. That is the West Virginia border. That's Columbus, of course, the largest city and capital of Ohio. I hope to be in Springfield today. On this journey, I am not, I don't know how far I'm going, but I will be taking you through the towns of Lewisburg, Bachman, Arlington, Englewood, Vandalia, Phoneton and Brandt. And then I'll see where I go from there. So I'm just going to kind of do a little combination of a lot of these towns and tell you where I'm at. So on with the journey. I am in Lewisburg, Ohio, at the intersection of State Highway 503 and Highway 40, or the Cumberland National Road, on a cave up that way. And I am right in front of the police station here. And here is a historical marker about a town that once existed here called Euphemia. Let's hear all about it. Read all about it, sorry. Construction of the National Road was approaching Preble County in 1830, and the coming of the road spurred the economic interest of local residents. John Mumma, the county surveyor, decided to purchase 158 acres of farmland for $7,900. He platted the village of Euphemia along the proposed route in May of 1839. During the first day's sale on October 1st, 1839, 10 of the village lots were sold. Euphemia became a boom town with the 3 taverns, dry goods stores, 3 blacksmiths, carriage shops, a clothing store, and its own post office. New housing was brick instead of timber, creating a more modern and prosperous look for the community. And here is an old map. And look down here, Andrew Jackson, the president at the time, signed it, or approved it. However, down here it says Euphemia's fortunes declined when the Dayton Turnpike was constructed, diverting traffic from the National Road. Meanwhile, the National Road in western Ohio remained unimproved. Petitioning by residents did result in the completion of the road to the state line, but neighboring Lewisburg acquired the railroad and annexed Euphemia in 1916. Here is a map. The sun's kind of bright. Now, the big city of Dayton is not too far from here, but Dayton is not part of the National Road, thankfully. I'm only saying that because of my taste of driving through big cities. All right, now I'm at Englewood, Ohio, and this is the junction of Highway 40 and Ohio State 48. And here is a historical marker down here, as well as a welcome sign from the residents of Englewood. Englewood was originally named Harrisburg, as it says in this marker. Let's see what it says here. Founded as Harrisburg in 1841. Harrisburg was platted 3 years after the National Road reached Randolph Township. The name of the town and that of its first post office, Ihampton, were changed to Englewood in 1899. Located at the intersection of the Dayton-Covington Pike and the National Road, the town offered lodging to weary travelers coming from all directions. Local photographer Edwin C. Sinks documented many sites along the National Road near Englewood in the early 1900s, including the covered bridge over the Stillwater River east of town, the Harrisburg Hotel, and other business establishments. The old wooden bridge was damaged by the 1913 flood and was dismantled shortly after December 1922 when the National Road was rerouted south over the newly constructed Englewood Dam. Englewood also was served by the Dayton, Covington, and Pequot traction line, which ran north-south along Main Street, which is this right here, from 1902 to 1926. The Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railroad crossed National Road on the west edge of town, next to the elevator and lumber yard. Local railroad service via the CH&D stopped in 1923. Automobiles became the preferred mode of travel in the mid-1920s. Service stations were common along the highway by 1926, where the road was designated U.S. Route 40. So that is a local grain elevator in 1928. That is that covered bridge that was talked about on the marker. And there are a lot of cool small businesses here on this drag. And by the way, Englewood is also a northern suburb of Dayton. But you probably wouldn't know that if you went east-west, but because Dayton's like, I want to say 10 miles south of here. Yeah, here's a mural that talks about the railroad, Dayton, Covington, and Pequot Railway, an old ice cream shop, Harrisburg Hotel. All right, now I am in Vandalia, Ohio, just next door to Englewood. And this is known as the Crossroads of America. And yes, that has a similar title as to what Terre Haute, Indiana also holds too. But this one is a different story because this one intersects with what is known as the Dixie Highway. This marker explains more. The Crossroads of America. I know it's very lengthy, but I'll try to whittle out as much as I can. So in April 1811, a construction contract was awarded for the first 10-mile section of National Road beginning in Cumberland, Maryland. This was the first federally funded interstate highway. 100 years later, in 1911, construction began on a lake-to-Gulf highway from Detroit to Cincinnati along a north-south dirt path through Vandalia known as Troy Pike and later designated as the Dixie Highway. Vandalia became known as the Crossroads of America, with the intersection of National Road, U.S. Route 40, and the Dixie Highway, U.S. Route 25, which, by the way, no longer exists. During the early 1900s, the Dayton and Troy Electric Railway ran through the crossroads, and the Al Johnson Flying Service operated on approximately 310 acres just northwest of the crossroads. The Al Johnson Flying Service closed in 1934. Then the Dayton Municipal Airport emerged to later become James M. Cox Dayton International Airport. Today, the intersection of Interstate 75, which will be coming up on my journey just shortly, is a north-south route, and Interstate 70, an east-west route, is recognized as the modern-day Crossroads of America. The village of Vandalia, Ohio, was platted on August 4th, 1838 at the crossroads, which was then the crossing point of two dirt trails. The founder, Mr. Benjamin Wilhelm, a settler from Pennsylvania, laid the village out in 33 lots, which include his own home and a small general store he built on the National Road as a stop for travelers heading west. And then it grew to a church, hotel, blacksmith, a sawmill, carrot shop, and many others. And then began to attract travelers and entrepreneurs. And then 1848, it was officially incorporated as the village of Vandalia, with Wilhelm as its first mayor. By 1959, a century or more later. Vandalia was outgrowing its village status, and it became much a bigger city. But it still prides itself as being located at the crossroads of America, and it's become the city's official logo since 1960. And here is a sign. I want to know if this actually exists. So the intersection to the Dixie Highway is just some steps away. Let's check it out. So this is the intersection. That is the National Road. That is the old Dixie Highway. That used to be US Highway 25. And there's a dude wearing a bunny helmet. Okay, but anyway, US 25 does not exist anymore because most of it was replaced by Interstate 75, but I do believe parts of it still exist in Michigan, although I could be wrong. But US 40, of course, still proudly rolls through this town. So this is that historical intersection right here. As a matter of fact, I see some signs. Let me see if I can roll my way over there. Here we go. All right, so if you look closely up there, you'll see signs for the original Crossroads of America. How cool is that? Those have been up there since 1980. Now I'm in the tiny town of Phoneton, Ohio. And here's another interpretive panel. I'm glad they're not as big as the ones in Indiana. I mean, I'll be honest with you, but it still contains a lot of nuggets of information, like local history and all that. But yes, Phoneton, believe it or not, is a communication center, or was. Let's see what it says here. Originally known as Phone Town. Yep. This community along the National Road was once a major telecommunications center in America. Wow. In 1893, the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, as we all know as AT&T, selected this site as a location for a repeater station to boost transmission for the company's long-distance lines between Pittsburgh and St. Louis. The first operations were located in the local Grange Hall. This soon proved to be too small, and AT&T built a 3-story structure to house telegraph and operator-assisted station-to-station calls. The top floor housed the telegraph operations. Personal and business messages, as well as communications for the Associated Press, United Press, and the International News Service were handled here. The second floor contained the Long Distance Center. Operators were responsible for 120 circuits that connected East and West Coasts and all other parts of the nation. Special emergency circuits were also located here for use by the press and government agencies. Electric power was provided by on-site generators to make sure that operations could continue in any weather. Telephone switching operations ceased in 1936 with the installation of an automated system at the AT&T office in Dayton. Part of the original 3-story building remains. Okay, here is the Grange Hall. And like the marker said, it is the first site of AT&T phone operations. And then that is the boarding house built by the company to house employees. They also built a 26-room hotel for the same purpose. Wow. And in addition, it says here it provided bus service for employees who lived in nearby communities. Cool. And as the way we remember it, like Lily Tomlin on Saturday Night Live, the switchboard operators. So this building looks very old, or well, so it looks. It's got peeling paint on it. Yeah. But I want to see if I can drive around this town to see if any of those buildings are around, but I doubt they are. But if not, I'm just going to move on to the next town. Okay, so I was not able to find any of those places that were in Phoneton, but I am in the final community in this video before I hit Springfield, Ohio, and I am in Brandt, Ohio, and this marker is in front of a church. It is called the Body of Jesus Christ Church. And this one is not done by the National Road Association of Ohio. This one is actually done by the Ohio Historical Society. This one basically, it just tells all the information. You are now traveling US 40, the old National Road used in the westward expansion of our country. In 1837, notice was given that this section of the road would be constructed. A toll house was located at the east edge of Brandt. Let's see what it says in the back. Yeah, it says the same thing. So, I mean, that pretty much sums up the pre-Springfield portion from the Indiana border to almost Springfield, Ohio. All right, thanks so much for tuning into this Historic National Road edition of Historically Marked. Yeah, I mean, I hope you learned a lot of cool information. There was actually a lot that I didn't even know before coming onto this trip as I was going through Ohio. So I will see you guys in Springfield, Ohio, where there are probably many more surprises to be seen. So, all right, Jason signing off.